Welcome, and thank you for attending our talk. My name is Paul Elliott. I'm here as the program manager of the Live Contact service, and I want to tell you about something that's really exciting, something we've been working on for a few months now to make Windows Live Contacts a service available to you to help broaden your market with Windows Live. You may have seen in other presentations this slide showing the various Windows Live services that we're making available. My focus today is on Live Contacts, and more specifically, the REST API. Consider this scenario. Imagine you have a retail music site. People come to the site hoping to make new friends, share music interests, try and find people with similar tastes in music. So a new user comes to your site, they register, he puts in his music wish list, his music playlist, and he'd like his friends to know about it, his existing friends. You don't know who they are, of course, so he has to invite them in. First thing he does then is to put in some email addresses. He doesn't really put very much else in because all he really wants is to invite them into your site. He doesn't need to put any more information in. He knows that this information isn't going anywhere else, so he doesn't really populate anything else but the email addresses. You have a system already with existing accounts, and you notice that within your system, some of the people he invited in are in fact already registered on your site. So, greatly, you can increase your network by saying, these two people are related. Here's a way of sharing your music with them. You can share playlists, you can share their wish list. And eventually, the people that they invited in also respond and accept invitations and invite more friends. This is all good. This is the way a social network generally grows within a particular site. Imagine, though, if the user came in the first place and brought with them 50 or so contacts from the start. They know that they're able to take these and move them around from site to site, so they're more committed to entering more information and making it a more quality address book. Imagine then if they came to your site, immediately invited 50 of their friends in, and then more of those friends invited 50 more. You can imagine how much more quickly your social network would grow. Your site would grow more quickly. You can recognize more connections between the people. And in fact, when they know that they can move this data around from site to site, the data that they put into your site and that they make available to you is much more of a higher quality. So what does this look like? I can show you a little mock-up that we put together. Here's a typical site, this retail music site that I've been talking about. Here I'm logged in as another user, but I'm looking at Godzilla's page. He has music playing. I have music playing. He has some friends that he's showing here. I can see the total users on the site, roughly here 23,000. I have in common with them only 5 people have common wish lists with me or common playlists, 4 here. But of my friends, only 4 of them I only have 4 friends, but only one of them has anything in common with me in terms of music tastes, which is rather unfortunate. I can send emails to them. I can contact any of my friends here with an email address, and I can listen to what they're listening to and maybe even buy the record that they're listening to as well. Now imagine if they brought Windows Live Contacts with them. Now I have a much greater site. The site is growing more quickly. I have more users. There's an obvious overlap here with many more users that I can make friends with. These people have, here, 56,000 people have interests in common with me, so I'm more likely to make more friends on your site because of that. And even within the friends I have, I've got 12 who overlap with my wish list and 14 who overlap with my playlist. And the other benefits of bringing in Windows Live Contacts is, at some point in the future too, I could talk to each of them and have them opt in to showing their presence to me. And at this point, I actually see that they're online. I can see what they're listening to. I can even contact them via Messenger and send them an instant message, and we can talk about the music that they're listening to. So what is Windows Live Contacts? If you saw Brian Arbogast's keynote this morning, he did tell you some of these numbers, but basically the Windows Live Contacts store is a huge database of 500 million address books. This is shared by Windows Live Messenger, Hotmail, Outlook, and many others. So it's built to scale. It can handle that load already, and we can handle a lot more. 263 million of these users are Messenger users, and 280 million are using Hotmail. This is an overlapping database. They all use the same address book. Now, that was just one scenario I talked about there, the retail music site. But you can imagine, I'm sure, and you've probably got ideas already, of various other scenarios that you could build using Windows Live Contacts, letting those users that come to your site bring with them their live contacts and opt into providing that access to your site. Take, for example, the shopping scenario. Somebody goes through the process of ordering something online. They get to the point where they need a delivery address, and instead of having to type it in laboriously, they can simply select from their existing friends. And if it's a new person, they can store it back into their friends list and take it with them. What about party invitations? You can set up a party and invite everybody that you want to come to it, and instead of having to, again, type in the email addresses, simply select from that list of friends. So what is the Windows Live Contacts API? It's a simple HTTP REST API. We're releasing this as version 1 today. You can go and play with it today. It's a version 1 alpha, meaning we're looking for feedback. We're releasing it to you. You can play with it. You can sign in. You can use it. You can build it into your own beta sites. But we want your feedback. We want you to tell us whether it's, first of all, got everything you want, whether it's got the right data formats that you need. Give us your feedback, and I'll be showing you a link later on to the forums where you can do that for us. It's a simple object URI. REST is built on the basis that everything that you access is a simple URI down to the object level that you want to access. It's light on the wire. You only have to send what you want to update, and you only have to receive what you want to get back. We're promoting today an XML data format, and there are only 4 methods you really need to remember: post, get, put, and delete. Post is adding, inserting data. Get is retrieving data. Put is update or replace. And delete, obviously, is delete. The difference between this API and some of the controls you may have seen earlier is that this provides you the tools to build a more integrated experience into your site. A Windows Live Contacts gadget, for example, is something that you place into a div in the web page, and data is passed between, on the client side, between the div and the site. And the user is involved in every step. They have to sign into the control. The user experience is well defined already, and every piece of data that passes between that control and your site is passed in front of the user, and they have to accept it. With the API, though, they opt in to provide you access to their data once. They can sign in. They accept the request to share data with the site. And from then on, it's more or less seamless. You don't have to show the user every time you're transferring data. It's under their control, but you can do it much more seamlessly and more integrated into your site. So here's a simple example of a get command in the REST API. You'll see at the beginning, we have the service live contacts. There's a collection of contacts within that, and then we specify a particular contact X in this case. Within the contacts, we have emails, and in the email collection, we have a particular email, and this one here is address. So this entire URI specifies the exact object that I want back. And I simply make that get command, and I get back the email address that corresponds to that address. So what are we making available to you in the schema? What data is available in the address book? You can see here the overall areas of the schema, but I can step through them fairly quickly here. The owner information that we're giving access to, or the user gives access to, in fact, is the first and last name and the Windows Live ID. This is the ID that they use to sign in to provide access to you, and you can then use that to make connections within your service as they opt in across your site. Then within the contacts themselves, there is also a contact ID, a unique ID, and a Windows Live ID. Only some of the contacts will, in fact, have one, because if this was a Hotmail user, for example, they may not necessarily have a Windows Live ID. This is really used for things like Messenger. It's a unique ID, and it's not necessarily needed for a regular contact in email. Next is the auto-updated statuses. If you've ever gone to Windows Live Spaces and gone to the Profiles section, you may notice that you can type in your personal and business profile information, and then you can make that available to your friends or public. Any friend of yours can subscribe to changes to those profiles. So I can map one of my contacts in my address book to your profile, and then whenever your profile changes, so does my contact information for you. This flag here just indicates that this particular contact is either auto-update enabled or not, and whether or not it's been updated recently. Moving on, within the contacts, of course, we have personal and professional type profile information, name, birth date, gender, that kind of thing. Same with professional, we have job title, profession, and so on. And then we move on to email collections and phone collections. Anything that is a collection has a unique ID. This means that you can access it directly using the URI, and it's automatically generated by the service. You have an email type, personal, business, etc., the address, and once again, IM enabled is another flag. This flag specifies whether or not this email address is being used or can be used for Messenger. It's quite key to take note of that if you end up at the point where they want to delete an email address, and if it's IM enabled, you may want to warn the user that's what they're trying to do. Same thing with phones. We can actually IM enable a phone through Messenger. A Messenger service allows you to use the SMS network to directly talk to someone from Messenger. Within locations, we have address information, both personal and business, and all of the information corresponding to that. And then tags. If you've seen the Messenger list or Hotmail list, you may have seen groups of people, groups of contacts, like personal, family and friends, co-workers, that kind of thing. Those are, in fact, tags within this service. But you can add more of those. You can add more than we have already in the database. And you can add additional tags that don't show up in Messenger or Hotmail. You can add a tag that simply describes the fact that this contact was added by this service, or this contact has latitude and longitude, for example. Anything you want to add. One thing to bear in mind, and Brian mentioned this earlier today, was that we want to make sure that when a user provides access to their address, to their address for you, that they have complete control over that. So when at the point that in your site you need access to their address book, or you would like to offer them the ability to use their address book, you would offer up a link or a button and say, would you like to use Windows Live Contacts? And at that point, they have a choice. They can opt in or opt out. Your site will need to take them to a live sign-in page, and I'll show you that in a minute, where they sign in with Windows Live credentials. You don't have to know them. You don't have to know their name or password, so you don't have to store it either. And they can, at that point, see whether what kind of request you're making. Do you want access to read their address book or read and write to their address book? If they accept the request you're making, they can opt in. And from that point, you get back a token, a delegated authentication token, which you store on their behalf. And that's what you use then to make calls to the Windows Live Contact service. We know by using that token that you have been given authentication access to their address book, but they can at any point revoke that authorization that they've given you. You store the token, then you make a call to Live Contacts. As I said, any point later, the user could revoke that permission, say they no longer want to share or give you access to their address book. So you might have to actually go back and ask them to opt in, or they can decline at that point. So one of the sessions that's coming up following ours is opening up Windows Live Data, where we'll go into a lot more detail about that process I've just described. And Jeroen Golan is giving that talk over in Lando 4204. I recommend that anybody that's here also go to that session to see how all of that works. So what does it look like? I've got a site that is ready for showing you what that would look like over here. This site is just a demonstration of what we can do with the REST API. So imagine you have a really good site surrounding all of this. The user signs in to your site. And then at some point in the process of using your site, you need access to their address book. So in this case, I have it under a link called normal case. OK. Now you're taken. The user is then taken to sign in to Windows Live, because this site is now requesting access. Notice we give a nice warning there to say that to the user, you are about to give access, and giving access requires you to sign in. So I'm going to sign in here as MIX07 user. OK. Now what you're seeing now is a feature of the alpha. If a user accidentally comes to this site, a regular user comes to this site to provide access, we're showing this just so that most regular users won't be trying this out. This is for the alpha. We want developers to use this. So developers will know, if they scroll down here, actually you can approve access down here. So this site is asking for permission to read, add, update, and delete your contacts. This is their privacy policy. You must provide that link when you take the user to this page, to your privacy policy. And the user is given a lot of information then exactly how you intend to use the data. So they can either decline or give access. In this case, I will give access. So now we switch to your site's view of the service. The user isn't seeing all of this. But what happens in the background is that you are given a domain authentication token, which you use then in subsequent calls. The request was approved by the user, and this is the owner handle that you use for all the calls. What I'm seeing here now is the get command that returns all of the address book data that's currently stored for that user. You'll see the HTTPS URL for the service, which is cumulus.services.live.com. Then this section here is the user themselves. This identifies the address book. Then the live contact service. This is the authentication token, which is a header sent along with the HTTP. And this is the response. Here's the XML data. Here's the person, myself. Here's my Windows Live ID. And I'm showing here that I have two contacts, that one and this one, David Jones. Now, at the bottom here, I have all of this data. See the tags. I have a little play area, a little sandbox at the bottom of this page that allows me to then play around with the API and show you what it can do. So right now, we have a get command. We're showing just /live contacts. That's basically the entire address book. Let's say I just wanted to pick one particular contact. And I do this by selecting by ID. And up here, if I find that first contact, this is the ID of this particular contact, John Smith. So I click down here. The site automatically populates this for me. So I'm showing here the get command for a particular contact. There's no body required for a get command. So I could just delete all of this. And here's the simple get and submit. What happens now is this repeats what I've just done. Get cumulus.services.live.com. There's the user. There's the live contact service. There's the contact, particular contact, and there's the ID. And there's just that contact's information showing up there. Now, let's say I wanted to add a contact. I'm going to show you what it looks like using the live service. So I wanted to show you that it is live. To prove that, I'm going to sign into Windows Live Messenger. And you'll see the same two contacts I just showed you in XML form from the API, David Jones and John Smith. Now, going down to the API again. To insert a new contact, you use post. To insert a contact, I also just insert it into the contacts collection, so I stop there. And now all I do is put in a contact structure. Here's one I prepared earlier. I have a contact called Tony Chestnut, and I'm going to add this piece of XML to the body. So that's all I'm doing right now, just a piece of XML to add many pieces of information. You can add as much or as little as you need. In this case, I'm just demonstrating that I can add a full contact with emails, addresses, phones, etc. And scroll down. and submit. So here's the command repeated, post. Here's the authentication token, and here's what I posted to the address book. OK, the response is that 201 means success, no value. So let's see, I want to have a look at all those contacts again. So I'll just select contacts and do a get. It'll ignore the fact that I've got some body in there. I don't need to submit it, but it'll ignore it if I don't delete it. So I just did a get for all contacts, selecting contacts here. And I have John Smith. I have David Jones. And scrolling down even further, there is Tony Chestnut. So going back to Messenger, if I just sign out and refresh, you can see the third contact added in the live service. So this is a live service. It's live today. You can go and play with this. In fact, you can play with it right now while I'm talking if you wish. Let's say I want to, let's say I wanted to update something. Let's take this man, this first contact. I want to update John Smith's last name. So if I just pick this person, you'll see here the URL that's been constructed for me by this site is saying, in the live contact service, in the contacts collection, this particular contact, under the profiles area, the personal profile, last name, I can now just put. At this point, I can just change it. So, in fact, when I typed it in the first time, it was actually spelled wrong. So now I just want to update that last name with Smythe and submit. Once again, success. So if I just now change that into a get, and just get that contact, all the information about that contact, and submit. Now you'll see John Smythe has been updated. And if I go back here, I'll sign out so that Messenger picks up the address book again. John Smythe has been changed within the live service. So finally, let's go back and show all of the contacts again. Get. I'd like to delete that last contact I added, Tony Chestnut. I don't really like him anymore. I'm going to get rid of him. Here I'm specifying a particular contact again, but I'm going to change this to delete. Once again, there's no body required, so I can delete it or not. This will ignore it. And submit. So the delete succeeded. And if I do a get once again for all of the contacts, he's actually gone. It's not actually a lot harder to see it like that, so I'll just sign out here and sign in. And there he's gone. OK. This is a resource slide. I don't expect you to get it all down right now, but the best place to start is dev.live.com/contacts. If you go there right now, or any time in the next few days, you'll see that we have a lot of information there about the API, the terms and conditions, the forums, links to the forums. And this is where we'd like your feedback. Go to the Windows Live Data Development Forum and give us some feedback about the service there. There is a page URL described in the SDK there on how to provide the user the opt-in page, how to get there, the information you need to pass to it. The URL for allowing the user to revoke permissions, we'll be providing that to them just in general. And the live contacts service itself is cumulus.services.live.com, where you specify the user and then the live contact service there. Now, I'd like to welcome on stage Dave Nicholson, who's the business architect of Zopa.com, a UK-based social lending service, who've been working with us on the API and integrating it into their user experience.
Thanks, Paul. Good morning. Zopa is the world's first person-to-person lending and borrowing exchange. What that means quite simply is that we put people who want to lend money in contact with creditworthy people who want to borrow that money. And because there's no bank in the middle, actually both sides get a great deal. We launched in the UK just over 2 years ago. We've got almost 150,000 members in the UK, and we're looking to launch in the US and one other country later this year, so things are going well. In fact, about a few hours ago, we got awarded our first Webby. So we won the Webby for the banking and bill paying category. There's something a little ironic about someone who's not a bank winning the banking category, but never mind. Why do people use Zopa? Very quickly, for lenders, people who are lending the money through the site, first and foremost, they get a great return, so they get a better rate than they can putting money into a bank account. They find it's very human, so people like lending money through Zopa rather than just giving their money to a bank and earning interest from a bank. They prefer to actually know that their money is going to someone else who's using it to buy a car or save for a holiday or something. It's safe, so since we launched, we've had default rates of about 0.05%, so all of our fraud controls and our credit controls are working incredibly well. And you're in control as a lender, so you choose who you lend to and at what rate you lend at. Now, borrowers get a great rate, so they can borrow more cheaply from Zopa than they can borrowing from a bank. They're very flexible loans, they can repay when they want with no charge. Again, there's no bank, so they know they're paying their interest back to another person just like them rather than to a bank's shareholders. And it's very fair, so we try to take into account additional things in a borrower's profile when we're credit assessing them that a bank wouldn't. Now, what we think we've done with Zopa is create a new category called social lending. And what social lending does is it gives people two forms of reward. They get a financial reward, either a better return as a lender or a cheaper rate of borrowing as a borrower. But they also get a social reward. They get that reward from knowing they're interacting with people rather than a bank. Now that feeds into the Zopa community. So that 150,000 people in the UK is a community of people, a very active community. And I think what we've achieved is quite unique in that we've actually created an online community in financial services that's very trusted. So because of those low default rates, because of all the safe and secure things we put in place, there's a trust there that means people are happy to transact over the web in a very unusual space. So, most people would say, you want me to lend money to someone I'm never going to see over the internet, you've got to be kidding me. Actually, we put in place enough controls to make that work. So when we were talking to Microsoft around the Windows Live services, we wanted to find something we could do with Microsoft that sort of built on that community. Now, there are a few other things we had to put in place as well. It had to be low cost, and it had to be easy to implement. So we were a little startup. We don't have a huge development resource. So we had to know that it wasn't going to cost us a fortune or take a long time to implement. Both of those things, I'm happy to say, worked excellently. So the cost of the service is very reasonable indeed. And our developers spent about 5 man days from start to finish, which obviously included getting up to speed on all the APIs and that learning curve. So it was a very simple thing to implement. Beyond that, we had to know that it was going to be valuable to users. So we could have put together something that we put up on screen here today in Vegas, and it looks fantastic. But actually, we wanted to create something that was really going to be used going forward in our website. And we wanted something that built the community. So we wanted something that either grew the community or strengthened the links within that. And of all the things we talked to Microsoft about, the one we settled on was the Windows Live contacts piece. Now, what we want to do with that contacts piece is to use that to improve our member-get-member scheme. So a little like Paul was talking about earlier with the music retail site, we wanted to use the service to grow the number of people using our member-get-member scheme. Word of mouth is quite an important advertising channel, or acquisition channel for Zopa. And our member-get-member scheme we've had in place for a while, but we wanted to really use this to power it up. And now I'm going to walk you through a quick demo to show how we've done that. Yeah, just need to sign out of Messenger here, else I'm going to get Paul's contacts up. Close that down. Actually, I'm going to need to close down a few other things. I think let's just close that one down as well. Right, that's the URL I'm after. I'm a Mac man, I'm not used to these funny things. That's because we're running on a beta site, so you can safely ignore that. So what we're going to see here is really our Zopa website. So this is what a user would see once they're signed into the Zopa website. And they'd come to the page that wanted to introduce them to the member-get-member scheme and tell a friend. And what we can see here is we've got various different ways of using the member-get-member scheme. And we've got the Windows Live contacts at number 1, obviously. So if I click load, that takes us to a quick screen that just repeats the information around what's actually going to happen here. So sign into Windows Live. We're going to retrieve your contact details through the API. And then you can choose who to send emails to tell about Zopa. We go through these same screens that Paul showed earlier. We sign in. And then we get the error message that's not really an error message. and we give access. And again, we had the privacy policy link there. So privacy is something that Zopa takes quite seriously. So it's a financial services website. Clearly, we have to be aware of security and privacy issues. And when you sign up into Zopa, you go through the terms and conditions that include lots of information on what we will do with your data, and we repeat that on that link. Now, what happens there? We've gone through the API. We pull back the user's contact list. And you can see that we've been able to present that in a way that's completely compatible with the Zopa look and feel of the website. So we've got that information, as Paul was showing, and we formatted that and put that into our own website information, our own website look and feel, sorry. And obviously, I can choose who I want to send the emails to here, and then I can send them out. But let's say I want to send there's a contact that I want to add that's not on here. Very easy. I can do that simply here. And I'm sure I saw this guy wandering around outside. So let's just add him. There we go. There he is. So we put that back through the API now. There's Elvis. We can tweak the contents of the email below and send an email out. And that's that. It's very simple. Now let's just show you what we've done with that contact to prove that this is actually writing live to the API again. So if I go to the Windows Live Mail service, so we've seen it live working on Messenger. Here's the mail service. And there's the man, Elvis Presley. So that was just been added through the API from the Zopa website, now available on the Windows Live site. Now, of course, Elvis is dead, alas, so we have to delete him. Bye-bye, Elvis. Now, if we go back to the Zopa website, because of that token that Paul talked about earlier, if I come back here the next time and I want to go through the same process, I don't have to go through that same authorization authentication again. I can just click load, and up it'll come. Elvis has left the building. He's not on the contact list. So what we have there is a sort of a live two-way updating between the Zopa website and the Windows Live contact address book. Completely seamless, completely real time. Now, what we want to do going forward is move beyond that. So we think that's a fantastic tool. We think that's really going to drive usage of our member get member scheme, because it means that instead of having to sit there and type out 50 email addresses, you can just put in your Windows Live ID, get the 50 email contacts, and just choose who to send the emails out to. Moving beyond that, we're quite excited by a lot of the other things that are coming down the line. So we see potentials for using APIs like the Photos API or the Profile API to bring back rich information from the Windows Live service to enrich members' services on the Zopa website. There's one particular thing I want to talk about quickly, that's not the demo, which is friend of a friend. Now, this is something that's coming on a little later, and I promised Paul I wouldn't commit him to any dates. But through that, we'll be able to get a user's contacts and then also his contacts' contacts. And what we want to do with that on the Zopa website is to create trusted groups of people that can transact with each other. So today on the Zopa website, when you choose to lend to someone or borrow from someone, it's quite anonymous. You don't see much information around them. You don't get to choose explicitly who you're transacting with. In the future, we can see a model where actually you want to create a group of people who you know who are trusted to you and transact with them. So this is the model we're thinking of. So in the center of the concentric rings, you see the Windows Live user, his contacts around him, and then contacts of the contacts, the friends of a friend around them. And that creates a group of people that you can trust and you want to transact with. Now, how might that look on the Zopa website? So here's a quick mock-up. So you can see creating a group of trusted people. And in the middle there, under your friends, those are the people that you pulled down from your contact list. So Arthur, Richard, and Arthur's twin, I guess, him again. And you can see in there that you can see the number of people they have in their contacts list. So Arthur number 1 has 3 people, Richard has 6. And what we've chosen to do here is to trust Richard. So we're saying, Richard's a friend of mine. I trust him. I'll transact with him. I'll lend him money. So we've ticked him. And then we traverse through his contact list, and we see his contacts. And we can see he has 6 contacts, and we've chosen to trust 3 of those. And we can see additional information, so we can see how many other people have chosen to trust Richard's friends. So what we're doing here is potentially creating a very rich environment where people can transact in a trust-based way rather than relying purely on credit information. So that's in the future, but what we have right now and going live very shortly is that demo that I showed you, the member get member scheme, which we're really excited about. And we're very excited about the future as well. So thank you, Paul, for your effort that you've helped us getting this live, and thank you.
Thank you, Dave. So now I'd like to welcome Keiji Kanazawa, a co-worker of mine who's working on improving even more the Windows Live Contact service by adding messenger functionality. Okay.
Thanks, Paul. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great time in Vegas and at MIX. So now you've learned through Paul and Dave how you can grow your communities, add members to your communities through your users' Windows Live contacts. And now you may be thinking, hey, if I add people to my community, to my website in this way, you know, a lot of these people already know each other, just like Dave showed. And not only that, these people probably know each other through Messenger. So is there a way that I can drive more engagement in my user base that I've just added by letting them see when each other's online and be able to talk to each other through the power of Messenger? If you're thinking that, then you're in the right place, because today we are previewing a set of tools that enables web applications to integrate with Windows Live Messenger. If you were in the Brian Arbogast talk prior to this one, then you saw how Match.com is doing exactly that, incorporating Windows Live Messenger into their web application to drive more engagement into their community. How many people were at the Brian Arbogast talk? Okay, so not all of you. So Match.com is one of the world's largest online dating sites. People go visit the site, look at a bunch of search, and look at a bunch of people's pictures, profiles. And then what Match.com is adding the ability to see when those people that you see on the website are online in Messenger, and then be able to initiate IM conversations with them. So let me actually switch over to a demo machine and show you another example of what that might look like. Can we switch over to the demo? Thank you. So here I have a simple version of the music mixer site that Paul showed earlier. As you can notice, what I have here is a little HTML-based IM window that a visitor to Godzilla's profile page can now use to send Godzilla IM. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pretend to be two people here, one person looking at Godzilla's profile page, and another person and Godzilla himself actually signing into Windows Live Messenger. So now I'm online, and if I reload this page, it'll take a second. We're connecting back to a test cluster back in Redmond, and so it'll just take a second to load back. What you'll see is that Godzilla is now online. And yeah, so you can see Godzilla's online. And if I click here to send a message, the first thing it does is ask me to fill in a name. So I can just be visiting, web surfing, and want to send Godzilla IM as anybody I want. Or I can actually choose to sign in with my Windows Live ID so that if, for example, Godzilla and I are actually already Messenger buddies, he'll know it's me that's sending him an IM. And I'm just going to say I'm Mothra, which is another Japanese monster. And the next thing that happens is I am asked to prove that I am not some bot trolling out on the internet trying to send Godzilla some IM spam or spam. So I get a human interactive proof or captcha dialogue to prove that I'm really a nice person. And then I can start to send Godzilla some IM. So I can say, hey, you big lizard. And then what will happen is I should momentarily, I like your taste. Oh, here we go. So now I get a pop-up here that I got a message from Mothra. So I'll say, hey, what's going on? And then you can see that on the web visitor, he gets the IM back as well. So what we've seen here, again, is it's purely an HTML-based control here. Although I do have to have Windows Live Messenger on this machine, you don't have to have Messenger on here, and the visitor doesn't have to have a Windows Live ID in order to engage in instant messaging with the Windows Live user. Can we go back to the slide deck, please? So what we are offering is two things. It's the Live Messenger Web Presence API, which is an HTTP REST API that a website, a web application can use to get the presence of a Messenger user. Similar to the way that a user has to opt in or give permission to share out this contacts, a user also has to give permission and say, yes, I do want to show my presence on websites, and I want to get IM from websites. But once they do that, then a web application can go ahead and ask for presence and then show it on the website. The second thing that we are offering is the Live Messenger Web IM Control, which is that HTML-based IM gadget that you saw in the demo. So that's so both of these are targeted at browser client-side applications, AJAX-style applications. You can just load them into the browser and then hit both the Presence API as well as the IM control directly. And we support both Internet Explorer as well as Firefox. The availability for both of these are going to be in the fall of this year. And we'll be working hard to bring that out to you as soon as possible. So can we switch back to the demo page, please? Demo machine again. So now what I'm going to show is I'm going to show what that HTTP Presence API looks like. Here I have basically a URL that represents somebody's presence. So as you can see, there's a DNS name, then the user's ID, and then presence. And if I just copy that and put that into the browser, then what I get back is a JSON response. Let me actually increase the text size a little bit. I get a JSON response with the user's status, the user's ID, the user's display name. And then if I go and change my name here, I'll say I'm Paul now. And I'll change my status to busy because I'm giving a presentation. And then if I reload it, let's see here. Again, this is connecting. Here we go. So it shows now it's updated to Paul, and the status is showing as busy. Now, again, I should caution that these are running in a test cluster back in Redmond. So if you were to copy this URL and type it into your browser in the audience, that's not going to work necessarily. So, but let me actually show you another thing. So in addition to supporting the JSON result for the HTTP Presence API, which you can use with a JavaScript callback function to process in your browser application, AJAX style, we also offer a presence image. So if you ask for, instead of presence, if you ask for presence image, it will return an image representing the user status. So let me just show you that. Here's what I have is an anchor, an HTML anchor, where the target or the link of the anchor is to the web IM control, where the invitee or the person being sent IM is, again, Godzilla. And then I have an image in here where the source is the HTTP URL, but again, at the end, I have presence image instead of presence. So let me just copy that, and I'm going to bring up everybody's favorite web editing tool, which I know is Expression Web. And I have conveniently marked here the spot that I'm supposed to add this, which is right next to Godzilla's name. So let me do that and save it. It's giving me a hourglass here. Uh-oh. Let me go back here and then load this. So let me go load it back. And now, as you can see, I've added that anchor, that presence image, and it shows Paul or Godzilla again being busy. So now if I click on this, what happens is it launches the web IM control again in another window. OK, can we switch back to the PowerPoint, please? Thank you. So to summarize it all for this talk, you can bring more users into your communities, into your web applications today by letting your users bring their Windows Live contacts into your site using the Live Contacts API that Paul showed and that Dave showed. And you can do that starting today. And in the fall, you will be able to add Live Messenger presence and instant messaging into your application as you saw in the demo. You already saw dev.live.com is a place to go for information. And Paul already talked about the next session given by Yaron Golan, where he will talk in more detail about how you can get access to that contact data, more technical details on how you give the user, how the user gives permission, and so on. And this afternoon, we have a few more things on Windows Live, including Windows Live Spaces, Windows Live ID, Windows Live Domains. And last but not least, we have the party this evening, the Mix Party at Pure. I hear from last year that it's a great party, so we encourage you to go and actually look us up and come talk to us. So finally, we invite you again to make it easy for your users to bring more people, invite their friends into your applications to enrich your communities using the Live Contacts API, which you can start doing today. And you can build more loyal users, drive the engagement within your web communities by adding live messenger presence and instant messaging to your site later this year. Go to dev.live.com for SDK, details, and news. When the messenger stuff becomes available, it will become available there. And please tell us your story at the Mix Chat tomorrow. The Mix Chat happens midday tomorrow, I think around noon to 3 p.m. It'll be up, I believe, in the meal areas where we'll set up tables where you can come tell us your story. First of all, we'd like to hear your feedback, as Paul said, on our V1 offerings, what we're doing right, what we should do better, the things that you would like to see us add to help your businesses. And tell us your scenarios. What kind of scenarios you have? What are you trying to enable your users to do? What are the things that are important to your business? So please come and talk to us at MixChat tomorrow. We'd love to hear from you. We're here and showing this stuff in beta and alpha forum so that we can get your feedback early on and reflect that and make a better product for you in the end. And then come see us at PDC in October in LA, where we'll give you updates. We'll have updates to our APIs and so on. So one little note, please fill out your evaluations. These are very important because they enable us to tailor our presentations, our conferences, so that they meet your needs better, so that we can look forward to PDC, we can look forward to Mix 2008, make sure that we are giving you the type of information and giving you the type of presentations that you find the most useful. So you get the most out of these 72 hours or however many hours it is that you engage with us. So please do that. And with that, I'd like to invite Dave back up here, and we're ready to take some questions from the audience. And there's a mic over there if you have questions.
To use it.
Anybody? Don't be shy.
By all means, come to the microphone if you have a question.
Yes.
Is it possible to have an anonymous conversation so that if you want to have help or support on your site, you don't have to expose your true messenger ID?
So we are going to, when we launch later this year, most likely we will have some element of privacy so that your ID doesn't have to be shown on the website. But when you start to engage in the IM conversation itself, your ID will still show. So we have done some work, if you were at the Match.com, Brian Arbogast session with Match.com to enable that double-blind anonymous experience as well. That's something that we're going to slowly move to this paradigm as well.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, I think I got your name was Dave, is it?
Yeah.
Dave, hi.
Hi.
I'm Jerome from the UK as well. We're just looking at considering the integration of Windows Live ID. And in all honesty, despite the Microsoft guys being here, speak loud, but I just wanted to ask two honest questions. The first one is, how much time has it actually really taken to integrate it? And the second time is, what sort of ratio did you find in terms of opted in? So, the process, there are a few barriers to, select the contacts and it may be off-putting to some others, saying, is it really genuine or not? I mean, did you find that the conversions from integration to the contacts was quite high?
Well, a couple of things. Well, the service isn't actually live yet, so I guess we'll see. I mean, I think conversions will be good. I mean, I think although there are a couple of screens you have to go through, I think actually they're pretty familiar screens to most people. There's a sign-in button, there's a familiar screen there, so we're expecting the conversion rate should be pretty good, and we'll find out. I mean,
Have you done some tests on that? Or?
No, not yet. We haven't. No, so we only started putting this together a couple of weeks ago, so we haven't had a chance to do proper user testing on it. In terms of the development time, I mean, I think I said sort of 5 days, 5 man days of development time, and that's pretty accurate. And I think that was made longer than it would have been otherwise, because sort of these guys were developing the service at the same time as we were developing the thing to write off the service. So I didn't develop it myself, but the guy who did said it was a very simple thing to put in place, and actually if we started again from scratch, it would be even less than 5 days. So it's not a challenging API to implement at all.
That's great. Well, thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Can you describe, is there any relationship or is there going to be any integration of Windows Live ID sign-in with card space? Are we going to be able to use card space to authenticate?
Actually, for Windows Live ID questions of that kind, I think there is a session coming up later in the day that will go into detail on that.
Ask Lynn. I don't think Lynn's in the room, but ask Lynn for the Live ID section.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I can't speak, but on behalf of the Windows Live ID team, but I believe that's right. There is some plans to integrate those.
The embedded messenger control, how scriptable is that? Can you tell us about whether you can, for instance, script that through the kind of DOM-like model?
Did you catch that?
No,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Sorry, the messenger control that's embedded on the page, is that scriptable? Can we actually have interaction with that, for instance, to script text into it?
The question is the control itself scriptable? Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Today it's not, but we do plan to make, over time, we do plan to make it available, make it possible so that you can learn, for example, if there's activity in the window and so on. It's something we're definitely looking at. Yeah.
Are you going to put activity API in there as well? The activity API from the messenger for the control.
I'm sorry, your question is, will we make messenger activity available within the web stuff?
In that control.
Is that what?
In the control.
In the control. We'd love to hear more about how you think you would take advantage of that. It's certainly not something we're looking at for V1, but we'd love to hear more about how you think you would take advantage of that. Anything else? Any more? All right. Well, we'll be up here and we'll be around for the rest of the conference. So again, please join us at the MIX chat tomorrow. And come talk to us after the talk.
Thank
you.
you.
I believe there are. Yeah,